Hello, you're listening to Lady Time. I'm your host, Joe McGregor, and I'm joined today for the second time by Magic Barclay. Back in 2017, Magic established a practice called Holistic Natural Health Australia with a small group of holistic health practitioners who work through various natural health modalities from around the world. She works deeply with the root causes of illness through a method called innate immunity and functional health solutions. And she also specializes in psychoneuroendoimmunology of trauma. And she is also a mold toxicity master. In addition to the above, she is best-selling author of 3 books called Body Dysmorphia, Bringing the Hidden Enemy Out of the Shadows, and Gut Recovery in Whole Foods, and also Stop Being Fat, Love Yourself Skinny. And today we are going to focus on mold toxicity. Welcome back, Magic.
Thanks for having me back. I'm so excited to be here.
And me too, to have you back again, because I really enjoyed our conversation. And for our listeners, if you want to know a little bit more about magic, we did a lovely podcast a few months ago, and it was called Menopause and Adrenopause. So, magic does a few healing modalities, but it's definitely worth a little listen back to that one and to actually find out a bit more about magic herself as well. But as I mentioned, today we're going to focus on the mold toxicity. So, Magic, I thought maybe you might tell us exactly what mold is first, because I was very surprised when I read up on the information on your website about it.
Yes, well, mold is a fungus. So I do need to clarify it is a fungus, but in functional health, what we do is we give it its own category. Many fungus can be treated quite simply. Mold is a master survivor. And so what it actually does, which other fungus don't do, is it completely suppresses your immune system, both your innate immune system, so the one that you're born with, and your acquired immune system, the one that your body drives to try and relegate any situation going on. And mold just puts like a lead blanket on all of those and stops it working completely. And this is why it's known as the great survivor, because it wants to survive. It doesn't care if you do, because it just moves on to the next thing. A bit like when you have a fruit basket, you might have one apple, it's got a little bit of a moldy thing, there's been like a fingernail dent in it when you picked it up. It's developed a bit of mold. You leave it there, the whole basket of fruit is going to be moldy. So again, it doesn't care if you're alive. Other fungus really do prefer you, the host, to be alive so it can feed and replicate and, all that kind of thing. Mold is different. And that's why it's used in medicine and in germ warfare, because it's just so powerful.
And I had never heard that before, that it doesn't care if you live, because that is a very big distinction. So if you get mold, then is the mold, this is an okay, mold is external. So this is if it's in your home or your environment. Can you also eat it? I mean, I'm thinking of blue Stilton cheese as well. I mean, because that's made with mold, or is that a different kind of mold?
Now, that's made of mold, but when you eat
Mhm.
it, most of your gastric juices can handle it. So your blue Stilton cheese isn't usually a problem unless you're adding mold to an already moldy situation. So if you've lived or worked in a moldy place, for example, you're going to have mold that's entered your nasal cavity, it's in your body. You go and eat a moldy food, you're going to make things worse. And you'll know because you won't feel well. Some foods are really known to harbor mold. So your blue Stilton cheese, well, that's obvious because there's mold in it. But things that we do every day that we don't realize, things like chocolate and coffee. And that's because when those nibs are growing, the seed pod can often have mold in it. And then, of course, it's processed and they don't clean it 100% before they process it. And mold is microscopic, so they won't even see it half the time. And that then enters those products. So again, these products that harbor mold are really a problem if you're adding them to an already moldy situation.
So then we're really looking with your work to do with what's in your external environment, in your home, and maybe even in the workplace where you work as well. How do you know? I mean, there's the obvious way of knowing that you have mold, but other than just the obvious, you can see it in your wall. Are there other ways? Can mold be hidden in those buildings or in your surroundings and environment as well?
Mold definitely can be hidden. And in fact, once you see it, that's the end of the line. Like, it's been there for a long time. And, the one that we see the most is black mold. But there's so many different types of mold, and they're not all bad. Of course, black mold is one of the really bad ones. But by the time you see it, it's been there, you've been living with it, and you've been breathing it in. And so this is the problem. People will paint their walls or regrout their showers or use, I don't know, bleach or something, and they go, I've killed the mold, it's great. Actually, you haven't. All you've done is, by bleaching, you've taken the color out of the mold, it's actually still there. By painting, or replacing some plaster or something, you've just replaced that section. You might even move house or move offices. Well, guess what? The mold is in you and it's traveling to the new place. So this is where our team, we work with a company in Australia called Sanair, and they've developed products that have been proven to kill mold. And so we use the Sanair products to treat the environment, and we use our protocols to treat the mold that's in you. So, remember I said mold's a great survivor? It hitchhikes too. So you move house, it goes with you. And so, what we do when we move house, for example, is we take our couches and our beds and our clothes with us, don't we? And the mold's in those. So unless you are going to completely 100% sanitize every bit of furniture, you're still going to have a mold problem. And, wash all your clothes. And luckily the Sanair products help us treat those things. But it's really that two-pronged approach.
So if you can't see the mold, it's not obvious in your house, then how would you know that you may have a mold problem in yourself? What are the symptoms?
That's a great question. I did a blog on this not long ago, sometime last year, and it's on our website. So I definitely recommend everyone look that up. But there's a laundry list of symptoms that could be anything, one of them being fatigue, another being a stuffy nose, another being headaches. So these symptoms that suggest something else is going on could be mold. And certainly when people come to our clinic, and we work online around the world now, we have to really look at a full history. And so there's quite a few mold questions in there. Sometimes these symptoms will pop up because there's an immune problem, or, they've had a sympathetic dominance or a limbic problem, but sometimes it's mold. And we really don't know till we've got that full history and drilled down and asked a lot of questions. So a lot of people have mold toxicity and they don't think much of it. They think they've got a head cold and that they're getting a head cold frequently. They think maybe I'm just tired and run down. I'm so tired and I just feel yuck. It could just be I'm pushing myself too far. Well, it could be, but it could be mold. And so, I come back to mold is the great survivor, and that's because the symptomology of mold toxicity mimics so many other things.
So when someone comes to you for a session, it's great that you do work with people around the world, because I knew that you could work with the person, but I wondered how you also work with the environment as well. But say someone has a session with you, what happens? What do they need to do, and what does that look like, a session with you?
So we actually don't do single sessions anymore because the body is so complex and it really doesn't need to make any sense to you. So we scrap doing our single sessions. We actually do packages. And so we have 8, 12, or 25 session packages. In that, it starts with the free call, which is our root cause analysis. And that's where we ask you, I think it's 35 pages of questions, and that tells us what we need to identify. And then we discuss that with you. Once we get that questionnaire, we have our free call, and, you know, we drill down and we ask even more questions from whatever's popped up. Something will red flag there. And then from there, we offer you a package that suits you. So if it's something quite straightforward, you'll get the 8-session package offered. But if it's something that's very involved and has something like mold toxicity, it will be the 25-session package. And we've actually just released our liver and lifestyle package, which is a bit more of an entry-level, all-encompassing package to treat the most important organ, I believe, in your body. So that's kind of how we operate. Everything is done via Zoom. In most countries around the world, we can actually send you a starter box of products that we recommend. We're just trying to get that established in the US and UK now. But certainly in Australia, that's really easy. We just throw it in a post and you get a box to your doorstep. But yeah, we really want to make this more encompassing and easier for people to follow. And so we don't want you to spend forever chasing the supplements that you need or the products that you need. We try and do that for you. Having said that, there's never, 2 shopping bags worth of supplements. We don't operate that way. We try and find things that will do many actions. And yeah, that's how we work with people now.
That's really interesting because I thought, well, here I live in Ireland, and I noticed that one of the notes on your website was that you find mold in 70% of homes, and that is incredibly high. And my home is very, very dry. It's a timber frame house. And I don't think I have too much mold, but if this 70% of homes has mold and you can't really see it, then, is it possible that no matter how dry your home may be, you may still have mold in it? As you say, you can pick it up from the dogs, or it can be from your furniture or whatever. Is that still the case, or is it really related to the humidity that's in the country that you live in? Now, I think we have high humidity in Ireland because it's quite a damp country. I mean, it's very moist. There's a lot of rain here. Is it related to the climate you live in, as well as possibly just that you have mold anyway because your house is damp? It wasn't built very well. That's actually a bit of a rambly question. You can answer it in whatever way you like there, Magic, because a lot of things came to my mind as I was asking you there.
Yeah, definitely is a lot of components there, but it doesn't really come down to just the dampness. There's a few questions that I always have in mind when I'm talking to people about their homes. And the first is, do you have water, plumbed water? Because if you do, you're going to have some condensation in the house. That's just the way it works. And so that's an invitation for the mold. Do you keep your windows closed because you want to be nice and warm and dry? If you do, that could be a mold problem. You've got less air circulation. So, yes, the humid, damp countries can obviously have more prevalence of mold. But in this day and age, I don't know about overseas, but certainly here in Australia, they build these new houses so that they're airtight, so that the elements can't touch you whatsoever. You're safe. Well, that's terrible because we have plumbing and, we have water particles in the home, and then we've got this airtight home, and in the home we heat it up, we cool it down, we do all these kind of things. We certainly have a variety of seasons here, so we have heaters on, we have air conditioners on, we have all these things, but we keep our houses closed and tight, and so that we have some sort of temperature controlled environment all year round. That's the absolute worst thing you can do. So, in my home, I live in quite a dry area. It's very windy. We're on some grass plains. And, in winter, it's sub-zero just. And then in summer, like we are at the moment, it can get up to 40 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but anyway, it's hot. And, people keep their houses closed. Well, we have our windows open all the time. Yes, we use the heater and the air conditioner, but we always have pedestal fans going because we don't have ceiling fans. And that happens all year round. And then all year round, we'll crack a couple of the windows, particularly bathrooms and kitchen, and just have like a bit of airflow coming through. So, it's not just the seasons or the rainfall or the dampness or the humidity where you live, it's how you treat your home. And of course, most offices are airtight with recycled air. And, we know about Legionnaires in cooling towers. Well, we also have mould in cooling towers.
I mean, they are, even here in Ireland, they're making the houses a lot more, I suppose, airtight, as you say. So I'm not sure exactly how they work. I don't live in a house like that. But one thing that I do is I dry my clothes inside all year bar the summertime. And I do open my windows, and we do have air vents because here in Ireland, especially in the west of Ireland, we have a thing called radon or radion, I think. And we do have little vents in the windows because that's to let that out, because apparently it's can be cancer causing. But I do dry my clothes in the house all the time. There's nowhere else to dry because I don't like dryers. And my carpenter said to me, well, where is that moisture going? And I'm going, I can't dry my clothes any other way. But I do have the windows open. So it's really important, you're saying, to make sure that you do have a fresh airflow in your house, no matter what.
Yes, we use a dryer here in our home, and it's called a condenser dryer. And so it pulls all the moisture out rather than throwing it back into the air. But having said that, that lives in our garage. So there's just a very fine crack between the garage and the home, under the door, and the condenser dryer pulls the water out, and then I use that water and I put it on my pot plants out the front. There's always ways around, but yes, you're doing the right thing, having some airflow. If there is a separate garage or something that you can dry your clothes in, that would be better. But yes, that moisture does have to go somewhere.
Do you have tests as well for your home to test for the presence of mold?
Yes, Sanair have got some tests, and we actually did one in our home. We had some strange dark spots appear on the roof, and our landlord got up and checked the roof. There was nothing wrong with the roof, and we did the test and it came up negative. It was just, I think my kids actually might have hit the roof with something and have not admitted to it after I did all the investigation, because they swore to Blind Freddie that they hadn't touched the roof with anything. But hey, that's the way it goes. But yes, there are test strips that you can use, and it picks up a whole lot of bacteria and several different mold types. And, I find that's great. Obviously, it's very easy for me to get to my Australian clients. We are investigating the whole customs thing with sending those tests overseas.
So then when you're working with a person to help them clear the mold from their system, I would imagine that that takes a fair bit of time, does it? Or, if it's something that's very hard to get rid of. And would Candida, Candida, that's considered a kind of a fungal thing. Is that a different thing?
Yeah, so mold toxicity recovery takes about 10 weeks. And I'm glad you brought up Candida, because that's the fungus that we talk about the most. And with Candida, most medicos know of Candida albicans, but there's actually 470 different Candidas. Yes, Candida is a fungus as well. But again, as I said at the start of the program, other fungus are a lot easier to treat than mold. And Candida is quite easy to treat. But there's a few factors that come in with that. We have to look for a certain bacteria that can team up with the Candida, and that will change our treatment protocol if that bacteria is present. We need to look for any viral particles that have been activated. So there's a lot more, because Candida is of the fungal types that we consider the big three pathogens. So you have viruses, bacteria, fungus. Candida's in that fungus category. Mold is just kind of sideways of that.
Okay. That's quite interesting because I guess if you have candida, like you were saying earlier, would probably be exacerbate the mold if you have it in your home a little bit more. So there's quite a lot of digging down into it. Just to recap, if you could recap on the symptoms that may show the presence of mold in your own body, and then perhaps maybe just say a little bit about how, again, how someone could contact you and how they could work with you, because there is that 35-page assessment that you need to do before you would have your freest call with you and then go into looking at the packages. So.
Definitely. Okay, so I'm only going to list a fraction here of mold symptoms. So your first one is fatigue, your second one is dizziness or brain fog, then you've got stuffy nose, stuffy sinuses, dry cough. You might have watery eyes, you might have a snotty nose first thing in the morning and scratchy dry eyes as you wake up. It might be random pain. Now, random pain could be anything, but it could be mold. It might even be sore joints. It might be nausea after no food or with any food, or particularly with mold harboring foods. It could be intolerances that are exacerbated. The big one is penicillin allergy. That's a big, big one because, of course, penicillin's a mold. It could be a coffee allergy or a chocolate allergy. It could be white spots on the skin. It could be itchiness of the skin. It could be random rashes that don't seem to have a trigger at all. It could be poor sleep. It might be headaches. It might be just a tension in the head, not rather a headache, but just that, feeling of tightness. There's just so many symptoms of mold toxicity. And again, those could be a number of things, and we don't know till we get the questionnaire done. And people can find us at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. And it's holistic with a W. And there you can request a free health assessment that comes through to my team. They let me know and I send you the form. And, on that form, we ask everything. And there's some parts of that form that ask the same thing several times. And there's a reason why, because we need to look at how your brain is processing the question and how it processes the answer it spits out. So, it's a long form. We look at a lot of things. The answers are in the history, so we look for the history. And once we get that back, we can book your root cause analysis call.
That's great. 35 pages sounds daunting, but actually, I've often found I've never done out one that long, but I have often found that sitting down to go through the history is very revealing to yourself, let alone the practitioners. So it's probably a really good thing to do. So, Magic, that was great. I know we had to do a short one today. And I'm definitely having you back on again because you do at least 3 or 4 different things and you're exceptional at drilling down into the root causes of things, which is part of your speciality. And I appreciate your time today. Is there anything else you want to add before we finish up?
There is, and this is really exciting. Since we spoke last, we've actually released our functional medicine blended essential oils, and they're 100% therapeutic grade. They are on the website under shop, and we do have a mold be gone essential oil, which is great. There are no fillers in these, and we are shipping those worldwide.
Okay, I did see that. I was intrigued by it. So thanks for coming on today and giving your time again, and we'll definitely have you back on. You've been listening to Lady Time with Jill McGregor talking to Magic Barclay. If you enjoyed our conversation, please do share it. You can also follow us on our Lady Time Facebook page where you can find out what we're up to. And until our next episode, bye for now.